Great. And whenever you get clearance, let us know and we'll start. If I could have all of the participants, if you could please activate your video, all of the participants, including the timekeepers, because I need to talk to all of you here in the beginning. And since neither of these teams, I have not judged either of you, so I need to do some things right in the beginning. Before we're not cleared to start any trial issues, but I'm going to introduce myself. My name is John Wheeler. I'm a retired district court judge. For the last year, I've been retired. 14 years before that, I was a district court judge in the 18th district in Arapahoe. Before that, 26 years as a civil trial lawyer. I did cases just like this for 26 years. So I do enjoy it.
We're good to go, Judge Wheeler.
We're good to go. I'm going to ask our panelists, your jurors, to introduce themselves briefly. Ms. Schlinzog, you can go first.
Hi, my name is Melinda Schlinzog. I'm a civil attorney. I did mock trial myself in high school and also have served as a coach for 4 years.
Thank you. And Ms. Little?
Certainly. Hello, everyone. My name is Kamisha Little. I'm actually a Texas attorney, so it's nice to be visiting your state and participating in this competition. I currently work for a nonprofit organization where I help young hopefuls like yourself get into law school and be successful through the bar exam. So good luck, everyone.
Are you talking to us from Texas? Whoops, can't hear you for some reason.
All right, there we go. I have 2 mute buttons. You're talking to me from Washington State, where I currently live, in Spokane, Washington, so Eastern Washington, very far away from both Colorado and Texas.
Where in Eastern Washington? I was born in Spokane.
That's where I live, Spokane.
Oh, nice. It's a good city.
And
Awesome.
Mr. Prey, take that segue and introduce yourself.
Charles Prey. I'm a retired civil engineer and land surveyor, and this is like about my 7th year of scoring. So,
okay, thank you. Before we get going, we do have a hard cap of 4 o'clock, so I want to get this done quickly. A few preliminary things that I have before we actually start the trial. Who is our lead attorney for the plaintiff on the Oscar team?
I am, Your Honor.
And you are Ms. Entner?
Yes.
Okay. And for the defense, who is lead attorney?
That would be me, Your Honor.
And that is, who have I got here? Mr. Newman?
Yeah, Jack Nauman.
Let's see here. Oh, defense, here we go. Hold on. Great, Mr. Newman. I ask that because I get, that's who I go to for information, our lead counsel. Now, a couple of things that may short circuit a few issues you have on your preliminary motions, pretrial motions, but we've all got team rosters, those things we need. How are you on the plaintiff's side, Ms. Entner, going to be presenting exhibits? Are you going to screen share? Are you going to show them, hold them up? How are you going to do that?
The plaintiff was wondering if our timekeeper could screen share for us.
As long as the timekeeper can do that and keep time, that's fine.
Okay.
Is that acceptable for the plaintiff's timekeeper?
Yes, it is, Your Honor.
Great. How about for the defense, Mr. Newman? Is it Nauman or Newman?
It's Nauman, but
Nauman, I'm sorry, my mistake. Mr. Nauman, how will you be doing it?
We would ask that everybody would be able to look at their own exhibit notebooks in order to avoid any technical difficulties that could come along with screen sharing.
Can you screen share? And if you have a problem, we'll account for that and not, it's not scoring down or anything, but if you can screen share, I would prefer that if you're able to do it.
We haven't ever really practiced that. So would it work that we could just show the exhibit notebook to the camera?
Fair enough. Just so that everybody knows what section of any exhibit that you're doing, that's fine. No problem. Thank you so I know how it's going to work. That's all we need to know. For the timekeepers, timekeeper for the plaintiff, I'm looking around here. Here we go. For Oscar, I've got a timekeeper. Are you going to be chatting the time or showing it visually up on a screen?
I will be using the chat.
Using the chat. And timekeeper for the defense, where are you? Let's see.
I'm right here, Your Honor.
Ah, there you go.
I will
Ms.
be using
Ingrid.
time cards on the screen as well as conversing with the other timekeeper over chat, just to make sure that we stay within the same range of time.
Okay, a good way to do that then is to keep your video off unless you're going to show something and then turn it on, okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
Great, so that you're not on screen all the time using the bandwidth. Speaking of that, for opening and closing, our scoring panelists will be on the screen, just like you. Opening and closing attorneys will be talking to the jury. During examination, they will be off screen to preserve the bandwidth, but I've had good luck with that system, so I will remind the scoring panelists to come on screen for opening and for closing, otherwise they will be off screen until the end of the trial. Examination types, of course, every witness will have direct exam, cross exam, redirect, recross. If there is no redirect, there is no recross. On objections, I will give you the objection. If I need it explained a little more, I will ask the objecting attorney. Then there'll be a response and a reply. If I need more, I'll ask for more, but probably those three only: the objection, the response, and the reply. Okay, we'll begin this trial. And the first thing I am going to ask before we get to being ready for trial and having preliminary issues, you've heard a lot of you've heard these rules in your regionals, you've heard these rules in the state competition. I am not going to repeat most of them. One thing I will repeat for our guests on the live streaming service: please understand, although you may view this, you may not record it or take photos of it. That is the province of the Colorado Bar Association. So please understand that. Also, let's see. Reminding all team members and participants, no recesses will be allowed unless two things. One, that there is a medical emergency. If there is such a problem with you or with any of your participants that you notice and you need me to stop this trial because of a medical issue, tell me and we'll do that. Also, technical issues. Technical issues will be obvious to everyone. I will stop the time. If I don't say stop the time, if we have a true technical issue, the timekeepers will automatically stop time, and then I will restart it when we fix everything. You're familiar, more familiar than any of the jurors or me, of disputes. If there are disputes, you know well enough as team members how they are addressed. Some of them I address, some of them have to be addressed after the trial with the Colorado Bar Association. But you're well aware of that. If there is a dispute, let me know. Time requirements will be enforced strictly. If I feel that there are technical issues that have interrupted your presentation that are significant enough, before the end of the plaintiff's case and before the end of the defense case, I may make a unilateral decision from the bench to add time to everybody. Say direct, both sides, direct and cross will get 30 more seconds or a minute more. That'll be in my discretion to do that. Please do not ask for that time. I will keep track of it and I will give it to you if I think it's appropriate. So don't feel that if we do have those technical problems that you won't be able to finish your examination. But if there are no technical problems, if time stops, you'll be graded down if you go beyond that. I'm going to ask lead counsel for the plaintiff, who is Ms. Entner, to please introduce herself and pass the baton to her co-counsel and then witnesses. Ms. Entner.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Members of the jury, my name is Annie Entner, and I will conduct the direct examination of Dakota Weirs, the cross-examination of Ms. Skylar Weirs, and deliver the opening statement. May my co-counsel be permitted to introduce themselves?
Yes, please.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Caitlin Clint for the plaintiff. I'll be direct examining Carson Durst and cross-examining Blake Doncourt.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Christopher Dudzik for the plaintiff. I will be conducting the direct examination of Dr. Casey Rogers, the cross-examination of Dr. Devin Williams, and the closing argument. May my witnesses be permitted to introduce themselves?
Yes, they may.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Sophia Weidnicht, and I am Dakota Weirs.
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Luke Brado, and I am Carson Durst.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Peter Heitman, and I am Dr. Casey Rogers.
Thank you. And our final, was that all three? Did I miss somebody? I was all three. Thank you. And lead counsel for the defense, Mr. Nauman, if you introduce yourself and then pass to your co-counsel and your witnesses.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Jack Nauman. I will be conducting the direct examination of Dr. Devin Williams, the cross-examination of Carson Durst, and providing the opening statement.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Gavin Steed. I will be performing the cross-examination of Dr. Casey Rogers, direct examination of Blake Doncourt, and I will also be doing the closing statement for the defense.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. I am Lola Cheney. I will be crossing Dakota Weirs and directing Skylar Weirs.
Thank you. And your witnesses.
Good morning, Your Honor. I'm Julia Jensen, and I will be playing Blake Doncourt.
Okay, I'm having problems on your video. And this is Ms. Jensen, is that correct?
Yes.
Let's see if can you move closer to your microphone? Let's try that now.
Can you hear me any better?
No, it's still pretty sketchy. Let's try again, and if not, maybe we can go by the time your testimony is ready to go, maybe you can connect by telephone.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. We tend to have bandwidth issues, but once all of the cameras are turned off,
okay, here's what I'm going to ask.
You might be able to hear me better.
Let's try this very quickly. I'm going to ask all the participants, not the jurors, but all the participants to drop their video. And then now let's see, ma'am, if we can get what you sound like.
Can you hear me any better now?
Oh, yes. Okay. Once it's time for you to testify, we'll have no problem. Can I have everybody back now? Thank you for that. Okay, and our next witness.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Danielle Jensen, and I will be playing Dr. Devin Williams for the AND team.
And our final witness.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Sophie Harrison, and I will be playing Skylar Weirs for the defense.
Thank you very much. Okay, now I need all 6 attorneys. Please raise your right hand. Attorneys, do you promise that the presentation you are about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to the facts and rules of the mock trial competition? You may nod your head in assent. Thank you. Now, witnesses, please raise your right hand. All 6 of you. Witnesses, do you promise that the testimony you're about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to your witness statements, that you will not add material facts or opinions which are not contained in the case problem, and that you will follow the rules and procedures of the mock trial competition? Thank you. Now my 3 scoring panelists, please raise your right hands. Scoring panelists, do you promise to adjudicate the mock trial competition as fairly and objectively as possible in accordance with the facts, procedures, and rules of the mock trial competition? Thank you. Now, all you witnesses, please raise your hand again. I'm going to swear you in for your testimony because this is a virtual presentation. You won't be being sworn each coming to the stand. I'll swear you in now. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Now, all your attorney has to do is call you to the stand and you may begin your testimony. Now, Ms. Entner, for the plaintiff, are you ready for trial?
Your Honor, I think we have a few more preliminary matters, but other than that, yes.
What would you like me to decide?
I know we addressed the screen sharing, but I was wondering if you would like us to screen share before the exhibit is admitted into evidence or after.
Before. I will simply instruct the jury right now, don't look at that document until I admit it, but please publish it immediately.
Okay, thank you. And then my second one was, can we reserve any remaining time for a rebuttal close at the end of the trial?
Rebuttal close is automatically reserved if you do not use the entire 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. The plaintiff is ready to proceed.
And Mr. Nauman, Mr. Nauman, any preliminary issues on the defense side?
Briefly, Your Honor. Your Honor, I would ask that the judge and the jury be aware of the stipulated facts, that all signatures in the paperwork are valid, and that the chain of custody is not in dispute.
We all have that, as well as my order on one of the experts.
Thank you. That is all, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. That saved us about 15 minutes. So we're in great shape here. We're going to begin the trial, and I have Ms. Entner presenting opening statement for the plaintiff. Ms. Entner, you can begin whenever you wish.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Your Honor. Members of the jury, my name is Annie Entner, and I represent the plaintiff in this case, Dakota Weirs. Members of the jury, this is a case about one thing: corporate greed. Greed that became more important than the consumer's safety. While a business is certainly entitled to creating and producing a product and making a profit off of that product, they're certainly not allowed to at the cost of the consumer's safety. You see, Ms. Weirs is an unfortunate victim of corporate greed. Ms. Weirs had a job in high school at Havens Landscaping Company, where she used Lush fertilizer. Unfortunately, Lush fertilizer contained Drufo, which causes non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Ms. Weirs didn't know that it caused cancer, but Lush knew. Lush knew and chose to hide this damaging information. Today, you will hear how Lush was negligent with their care of Drufo in 3 ways. First, Lush did not follow the industry safety standard. Second, they ignored clear evidence that Drufo was indeed carcinogenic. And third, Lush did not do sufficient research on Drufo. Today, 3 plaintiff witnesses will show you how Lush was indeed negligent and how they used a cover-up of helping the environment. But as you will hear today, there's a big difference between helping the environment and people's safety. First, Ms. Weirs will tell you all about her sickness. First, Ms. Weirs will walk you through her high school activities, how she loved school and helping out in her community, and most of all, playing the piano. After her job at Havens, Ms. Weirs will explain her sickness to you and how it has ruined her future and life. Most importantly, Ms. Weirs will tell you that Drufo is not used in other countries, thus showing that Lush knew the industry safety standard, but chose not to follow it. Second, Mr. Durst will tell you about his job at Lush. You see, Mr. Durst worked at Lush for several years and even researched Drufo. But when Mr. Durst found out that Lush wasn't taking certain steps to make sure that Drufo was safe, he quit because he didn't want to be part of a company that put their customers in danger. Mr. Durst will show you how Lush hid damaging information about Drufo. Last, you will hear from Dr. Casey Rogers. Dr. Rogers will walk you through each of his tests and how he conducted them. Most importantly, Dr. Rogers will talk about his conclusions that Drufo was indeed carcinogenic, and they did not take proper care in making sure that their product was safe. Most importantly, Dr. Rogers will show you how the defense did not properly study Drufo as they should have, and their tests are not valid. At the end of the trial today, we will ask you to vote in favor of the plaintiff, Ms. Weirs, because of the preponderance of evidence that the defendant was indeed negligent in their care with Drufo, and it ended in Ms. Weirs having non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just noticed, Mr. Prey, do we still have you? Ah, there we go. Good enough. Okay, and now we will have the opening statement for the defense, Mr. Nauman.
Thank you, Your Honor. Lush's warnings were thrown to the wind. Dakota Weirs has sued Lush Fertilizer, saying that their products, specifically Drufo, gave him non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Dakota Weirs will claim that Lush Fertilizer was negligent. However, she will tell you that during her time as a landscaper, it sometimes became a little bit too hot outside, and Dakota liked to feel the breeze against her face and skin. Dakota Weirs will tell you that despite the warnings on the packages and the warnings from her boss, she did not wear a face covering or even a long sleeve shirt or gloves. Why? Because it was just a bit too hot outside. She was uncomfortable. Years later, Dakota Weirs was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And while laying on the couch one afternoon, Miss Weirs saw an ad on TV for a law firm saying that out of all the fertilizers that Dakota Weirs and other landscapers had used, Drufo, a bonding agent used in Lush Fertilizer's products, may potentially cause lymphoma. So, despite the fact that Dakota Weirs had used many other fertilizers with many other dangerous chemicals, all without proper safety equipment, she decided to sue Lush Fertilizer for all of the damages. Any reasonable person would have worn the proper protective gear, even if it was a bit too hot out. Caution, hazards, wear protective clothing. All warnings that, as you will see today, were thrown to the wind by Dakota Weirs and by her employer in the landscaping business, Haven Landscaping. And where is Haven Landscaping today? Not here, not taking any blame for their failure to protect their employees. First, Dakota Weirs will tell you how Drufo is outlawed in the EU and other areas. However, this argument will quickly be refuted by the defense's last witness, Dr. Devin Williams, as she explains the reasoning behind Drufo being banned. Dakota Weirs will tell you that she did everything with her twin Skylar Weirs, except for landscaping. And Skylar Weirs never got lymphoma. However, she will forget that she used hundreds of other harmful chemicals, from other fertilizers, again, without any protective gear during her work as a landscaper. The plaintiff will try to discredit Skylar Weirs, saying that she has personal issues, saying she is a gambler. However, these issues would be negated if Dakota Weirs were to win this lawsuit and the huge amount of money that comes along with it. Yet, Skylar Weirs will fight for what is right and against Dakota Weirs here today. The plaintiff will bring forward Carson Durst, a prior employee of Lush Fertilizer, who was fired due to their lack of a strong work ethic and entitled attitude. But where do they work now? At Terra's Greenery, one of Lush Fertilizer's biggest competitors. And what is Carson Durst's job there? Carson Durst oversees Terra's competitor to Lush's best-selling product. So, naturally, Carson Durst would take every opportunity to tear down their competition. Then, they will tell you about their study on rats. Carson Durst found a singular study on rats, but not one report on Drufo's effect on humans. For their final witness, the plaintiff will bring Dr. Casey Rogers forward. Dr. Rogers will lead you through their unpublished, unrepeated, statistically faulty studies in an attempt to persuade you that Drufo does in fact cause lymphoma. The defense will call Blake Doncourt to the stand. The CEO of Lush Fertilizer will reinforce the fact that Dakota used many fertilizers during her days as a landscaper, and in every instance threw Lush's carefully labeled and carefully thought out warnings to the wind. However, she will also say that she doesn't even blame Dakota Weirs for the lawsuit. She blames the money-hungry lawyers behind it. She will give background on Carson Durst, saying that their complaints about Drufo only arose when they climbed the ranks at Terra's Greenery, Lush Fertilizer's biggest competitor, because it was, in fact, their job to prove any dangers of Drufo during its development process. In that time, she found none. She will also provide evidence for why Lush Fertilizer does not bake Drufo or any of its other chemicals. Then the defendant will bring forth Skylar Weirs. She will tell of her extensive research, and despite the fact that she and her twin are having financial difficulties, she would rather fight for what is right not what gets her out of debt. Finally, Dr. Devin Williams, a scientist with multiple publications and degrees, will take the stand. She will tell you about the importance of Drufo, why it was created, and why it cannot be proven to be carcinogenic. And finally, why the EU and other smaller countries banned it. We are all sorry that Dakota Weirs has been diagnosed with lymphoma, and we wish her the swiftest recovery. However, as stated in the jury instructions, you cannot be influenced by sympathy, and you will see today that it cannot be proven that Drufo caused Dakota Weirs cancer, and that Dakota Weirs did blatantly throw Lush's warnings to the wind. Thank you. Your Honor, I think you're muted.
I muted myself because I blew my nose. I apologize. We now have Ms. Entner, who has the first witness on direct. I believe we have Ms. Cheney on cross-exam, and Ms. Entner, you may call your witness when you're ready.
Thank you. Your Honor, at this time, the plaintiff would like to call Ms. Dakota Weirs to the stand.
Ms. Weirs, you've been sworn. Ms. Entner, go right ahead.
Thank you. Can you please state and spell your last name for the court?
My name is Dakota Weirs, Weirs.
Why are you here today, Ms. Weirs?
I'm suing Lush Fertilizer because their product made me sick.
Can you elaborate on why you were suing Lush Fertilizer?
Well, I was recently diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and I believe that it is because of my use of Lush Fertilizer.
What do you want to get out of this trial?
I just don't want other people to go through the same thing that I have. Lush is dangerous, and I don't want anyone else to be subject to this cancer.
What was your life like before you were diagnosed with cancer?
Well, I loved going to school. I loved being with my friends, and I worked really hard on my grades. I excelled in my studies, and I did a lot of extracurricular activities, like working at a landscaping company, as well as helping out at a local homeless shelter. But now I can't even help out at home. I can barely play piano anymore either, which is honestly one of my greatest joys.
Why was the piano so important to you?
Well, when I was younger, my grandfather used to play the piano to me all the time, and he passed away when I was 7. So I realized that playing the piano was really the only thing that could keep me close to him after he passed away.
Where did playing the piano take you?
After my grandfather passed, I took a ton of lessons, and I even ended up studying music theory in my free time. And soon people would come from all over the state to hear me play. I even got offered a few scholarships because of it.
Oh, sorry. Can you please tell us more about the scholarship you received?
I actually received a full ride scholarship to Juilliard, but now that I'm sick, I don't believe that I can play. My future is ruined.
What changed when you became sick?
I started to feel sick all the time, and I had severe pain due to my swollen lymph nodes, frequent chills, chest pain, and now I can't even sit at the piano for a long period of time.
And has this changed your future at all?
Well, I had to turn down the Juilliard scholarship because there's no way I could possibly complete such a rigorous program in the condition that I'm in.
Let's go back to the job you said you had in high school. Where did you work?
I worked at Havens Landscaping.
And what did you use while you worked at Havens Landscaping?
We used Lush Fertilizer.
Were you told to wear protective clothing while you used the fertilizer?
I was, but nobody else did, and I was 14. It was so hot outside, and I really didn't want to wear protective clothing if no one else was.
What yet led you to believe that the Drufo and the fertilizer made you sick?
Well, I have a twin, Skylar, who's also testifying here today. And since non-Hodgkin's lymphoma is environmental based and not genetic, I realized that the only thing that Skylar and I were ever different in was my landscaping company. And it all clicked when I saw something on the news.
And what exactly did you see on the news?
Well, I saw a story that...
Objection hearsay.
Ms. Entner.
Your Honor, this is not being used for the truth of the matter asserted. We are simply asking Ms. Weirs what led her to look into Lush Fertilizer and the Drufo. We're not confirming that the news story was at all true.
Ms. Cheney.
Your Honor, this is an out-of-court statement that is being brought into court without proper people.
All right, I'm going to overrule the objection. The question and the answer are designed to elicit the effect on the listener, meaning Ms. Weirs, of she heard something and what did she then do? It's not being offered for its truth. It's not hearsay. Ms. Entner, you may continue. If you need to re-ask the question, please do.
Okay. Ms. Weirs, I'll ask the question again. What did you see on the news?
Well, I saw a story about Lush fertilizer and the main ingredient Drufo, which really shocked me because I knew that Lush fertilizer was what I use. And so after seeing this, I went into more research about it, and I have become certain that Lush is what caused my cancer.
What did you do right after you heard this information?
I ended up actually calling my landscaping company to warn them that this is what happened to me, and my boss ended up giving me a copy of the label.
Sorry, we're just going to wait a second while our timekeeper brings up Exhibit 1.
Thank you.
Your Honor, it seems we're having some technical difficulties. Can we please pause time?
Yes, we'll pause time.
Thank you, Your Honor.
There we go. All right, well, time will commence again.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Weirs, can you please identify this?
Yes, this is the copy of the Lush fertilizer label that my company provided me with.
And you can confirm that this is the exact copy of the label that you received from your boss?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, at this time, I move for the admission of Exhibit 1 into evidence.
Ms. Cheney, as to Exhibit 1, any objection?
No objections, Your Honor.
Exhibit 1 is admitted. Ms. Entner, you may proceed.
What is the first active ingredient listed?
Drufo.
And what does the safety recommendation say?
Users should wash hands before and after use of this product.
Based on this label, what did you think the worst consequences would be?
Well, it really just surprised me that there wasn't anything that said it could potentially be carcinogenic.
Thank you. Can you hang on a second? Is there anything else you found out about Drufo?
Yeah, so my father and I actually looked into Lush fertilizer in other countries, specifically France, because my father's fluent in French. And we found that Drufo is not allowed in other fertilizers in countries outside of the US.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions at this time.
Ms. Cheney, cross-exam.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. You have worked for a landscaping company ever since you were 14, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And your main job was to spread the fertilizers.
Yes, I was too young to do anything else.
And you did that for 4 summers.
Yes.
Every day?
During the summer.
Lush wasn't.
And that is a yes. Is that correct?
Yes, my apologies.
Yes, we need yes, no, any explanation you wanted, but not uh-huhs or uh-uhs. Thank you.
My apologies.
And Lush wasn't the only fertilizer you used, correct?
That's correct.
And you used lots of different fertilizers?
I did.
And you used different pesticides?
That's correct.
Many of them?
Yes.
And you were recommended to wear protective gear, right?
I was, but it was never enforced and nobody else did. It was hot. I was 14. I mean, what else was I going to do?
And this protective gear included long sleeves?
Yes.
A mask?
Yes.
Long pants?
Yes, but it was the summertime and nobody wanted to wear that.
gloves.
Yes.
And this was all for your safety.
It was, but it was never enforced.
And you didn't do any of this, right?
No, my company never enforced me to, and nobody else wore them either.
But your boss told you to wear a mask, right?
Yes. But again, it was never enforced.
You didn't even wear any long sleeves.
Objection, Your Honor, asked and answered.
Sustained. Let's move on, Ms. Cheney.
Okay. And you wore shorts instead of long pants.
I did because it was the summertime. It was hot. I was 14. No 14-year-old wants to wear long pants in the middle of summer.
And you liked your hair flowing in the wind.
Objection, Your Honor, relevance.
What is the relevance? We haven't heard anything about hats here. So, Ms. Cheney, what is the relevance of that?
I am just stating to see how Miss Weirs negated the fact that she still needed protective gear, but she wanted to do other things instead.
All right, we haven't heard anything about a hat on flowing hair yet or confining hair. So you'll have to lay a foundation for that if you want to go into that issue.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. Now, moving on, Your Honor, let the record reflect that I ask opposing counsel to direct their attention to Exhibit 1, and I ask that Ms. Weirs does the same.
That'd be fine if plaintiff's counsel could put up Exhibit 1 again.
Great.
Yes, Your Honor. It'll just take a second.
And we'll pause time until, oh, here it comes. There it is. Okay, and go right ahead.
Thank you. This is the label of the fertilizer, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And you have seen this before?
Yes, I have.
Will you please follow along as I read under the second column with the bold title, hazards?
Yes.
Hazards. Keep out of reach of children. Caution. Now, since I've stopped reading for a second, will you skip down with me in the same column to the bold highlight user safety recommendations?
Yes.
User safety recommendations. As with any spray fertilizer, utilize protective clothing that covers exposed skin. Use of a respirator or N95 face mask is recommended. Follow manufacturer's instructions for cleaning / maintaining personal protective equipment. You agree that these are safety recommendations for your safety?
They are, but again, none of these were ever enforced. If we had known that it caused cancer, obviously I would have worn it.
Thank you, Your Honor. That is all.
And we'll drop Exhibit 1. Thank you. And Ms. Entner, redirect on those issues.
Yes, briefly, Your Honor. Ms. Weirs, did you see this label when you worked at Haven's Landscaping Company?
Not when I worked there.
And as you saw on the label, it said that, sorry, can we screen share Exhibit 1 really fast?
Yes, you may.
Based on the caution, what did you think would happen to your body?
I only thought it was going to cause eye irritation. I never thought that it would cause my cancer.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions at this time.
And Ms. Cheney, recross.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. Weirs, your testimony is complete. You are excused. We'll have the next witness for the plaintiff. I believe Ms. Clint is doing direct examination and Mr. Nauman is on cross. And Ms. Clint, whenever you're ready, you can call your the second witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The plaintiff calls Carson Durst to the stand.
And Mr. Durst, you've been sworn. Ms. Clint, you may proceed.
Will you please state your name and spell your last for the court?
Carson Durst, Durst.
And Mr. Durst, where did you get your education?
I received a bachelor's in chemical engineering from Arizona State University.
Where are you currently employed?
I work at Terra's Greenery.
And what is your position?
I'm the lead production developer.
And what does a lead production developer entail?
Well, I oversee the development of our fertilizers and other lawn enhancement products.
And where did you work before Terrace Greenery?
Before Terrace Greenery, I worked at Lush Landscaping.
And when did you begin working for Lush?
I began working for Lush as an intern in 2003, and within a few months, I had ascended to a full-time position. Someone chalked this up to my relationship with the Doncourts, but I was performing at a high level.
And what do Lush and Terrace Greenery both have in common?
They're both in competition in the production of fertilizer.
What was your biggest assignment you got while employed at Lush?
I worked on Drufo, a chemical patented bonding agent that helps keep the fertilizers preserved and intact. The chemical formula for Drufo was developed over a few years, starting in 2001. And when I joined the company in 2003, they were in the process of testing the safety of the bonding agent.
Would you please turn to Exhibit 4? While I allow my co-counsel to screen share that.
Thank you.
Do you recognize this exhibit?
Yes, it's an email by Jerry Langley.
Who is Jerry Langley?
She was the product manager for Drufo, so she oversaw my work with it.
And where did Jerry Langley work?
She worked at Lush Fertilizer.
Is email a method of communication regularly used by Lush Fertilizer?
Yeah, it is.
Is this document a fair and accurate representation of the email that you originally received?
It is.
Your Honor, I offer to admit Exhibit 4 into evidence.
And Mr. Nauman, any objection to Exhibit 4?
Yes, Your Honor, I would object to hearsay as Gary Langley, the custodian of these records, is not here today to testify.
And Ms. Clint?
Yes, Your Honor. Pursuant to Rule 801, subsection D2, this is an admission by an opposing party.
Okay, Mr. Nauman?
Your Honor, again, the custodian of these records, Gary Langley, is not here, and the witness says that they have, or no, sorry, never mind. The custodian is not here.
All right, Ms. Clint, I'll give you the last word on this as far as the issue of the custodian not being here.
This exception to hearsay is not necessarily referring to the custodian, as it is referring to Rule 801, subsection D2, that this is admission by an opposing party, and all that needs to be proved is that this email is about the role of Jerry Langley as a product manager at Lush, which has been laid foundation.
All right, under 801, this very well could be an admission. I'm not sure yet because we haven't heard any testimony about it. However, in addition to that, Mr. Durst is a recipient of this document. He testified that it was in fact a facsimile or duplicate of the actual document he saw on September 18. His name's in the receipt line. Therefore, he can testify having received it. So regardless of whether Jerry Langley is here, I'm going to admit this document. Ms. Clint, you may proceed.
Based on your familiarity with this email, can you describe its contents in general terms?
It regards the Drufo study.
And what is the date on this email?
September 18th, 2003.
What does this email say regarding the results of the Drufo study?
It states that there were concerns that it might possibly have carcinogenic qualities.
And what else is mentioned in this email?
It is also mentioned that we'd be conducting an upcoming study verification exercise.
And approximately how long had you worked at Lush when you received this email?
I began working in June and this email was sent in September, so that's roughly 4 months.
And when was Lush's analysis of Drufo completed?
December of 2003.
And what happened when this analysis was completed?
When the analysis was completed, we had a meeting in a conference room to discuss our findings. One scientist in particular expressed concerns that Drufo was carcinogenic and possibly linked to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
And when you heard about the concern for Drufo being carcinogenic, what did the manager tell you?
Could you repeat the question?
Yes. When you heard about the concern for Drufo being possibly carcinogenic, what did the upper echelon manager tell you?
Oh, right. There's an upper echelon manager that told us we should probably keep those findings to ourselves.
Did you ever receive a final report for the study of Drufo?
Yes, about a month after that meeting, a copy of the report hit my desk.
And what was your reaction to the report?
I believe the report was misleading. It seemed to me, based off my participation in the research, that part of the data was missing.
And was there anything else about Drufo in the report?
The report recommended baking Drufo to eliminate any possibility it might be carcinogenic.
And why do you think that they did not bake Drufo?
Well, I believe...
Objection, speculation.
Ms. Clint, you'll need to lay some foundation about how he would know such an issue and not be speculating. Otherwise, it would be speculation. So you'll have to lay some more foundation if you want to ask that question.
Yes, Your Honor. What was your job at Lush Fertilizer?
Objection, asked and answered.
For a different purpose, though, overruled. You may continue.
What was your job at Lush Fertilizer?
I was a chemical engineer.
What did this entail regarding to Drufo and your knowledge on Drufo?
It entailed that Could you rephrase?
What did your position entail?
That I would develop the product and its safety.
So did you do research on Drufo?
I did.
So why did you think that they did not bake Drufo?
Well, I believe it will be framed as them going above and beyond expectations. It was really just to protect their shiny do-gooder image.
And why was Drufo important to the company?
Well, it was critical to the company's financial success. It set them apart from other competitors.
And going back to the report, after you received this report, what happened?
After I received this report, I started
Objection, vague.
The witness appears to understand the question. I'm going to allow it. Go ahead and answer if you can.
After you received this report, what happened?
After the report, I started to get more pushback from senior members and my getting the most wanted assignments. My performance reviews also started to reflect those changed opinions.
And what happened next?
Well, I got another bad performance review in early 2005. So I went to Blake to see if I could work out my problems with him, but that conversation did not go as I had hoped.
Well, let's drop Exhibit 4 if we're not going to be using it. Thank you.
You said this conversation did not go as hoped. How so?
Well, for one, Blake didn't support me at all. And he also told me I'd have to work out my problems with Jerry on my own.
So what did you do next?
Well, it was clear to me I had no future at Lush. I guess you could say I saw the writing on the wall. I immediately began looking for a new job, and that's how I found Terrace Greenery. Though not without interference from Lush.
What kind of interference from Lush?
Well, they actually took me to court and tried to prevent me from working there, but we resolved it by me not working at Lush, at Terrace Greenery for a period of 6 months.
So why are you here testifying today?
The defense might say that I have a grudge against them, and I'm doing this out of that grudge, but I'm doing this because it's the right thing to do. I mean, I just don't like the way Lush handled the study of Drufo.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Mr. Nauman, cross-exam.
Thank you, Your Honor. You work for Lush Fertilizer.
Correct, I did.
Your main job was to test their product safety.
Yes.
You researched Drufo.
Correct.
Drufo contains many different chemical compounds.
It does.
But you were given the job of researching just one of them?
Correct.
You found studies on rats.
Correct.
But not a single report on humans.
Correct.
Now I want to ask you a few questions about Lush's procedures. Your coworkers also did research.
They did, yes.
On products in Lush Fertilizer.
Yes.
And after that, they submitted their research to superiors.
Yes.
And those superiors would compile all that information into one report.
If it was about the same product, then yes.
Then they sent those reports to administration.
They would, yes.
But you never knew what administration did with those reports.
Objection. This calls for witness to speculate.
Your Honor, sorry.
No, go right ahead, Mr. Nauman.
Your Honor, I'm not asking the witness to speculate. I'm just saying that the witness did not know what the administration did with the reports.
And Ms. Clint?
He does not have the knowledge to understand what his superiors did with the reports.
Well,
He can only testify on the witness.
He may so testify, but if he knows a fact about what they did, he may testify to it. If he doesn't know that fact, he may so state. But I don't see that that is speculation as to what they were thinking or what might happen in the future, which is the common locale for speculation. Mr. Nauman, if you need to re-ask that question, you may.
Thank you, Your Honor. But you never knew what administration did with those reports.
No, I mean, I just did my job and then they did theirs. But
And it is fair to assume that what happened with the other reports happened with this Drufo's report.
Correct. Same process.
Please direct your attention to Exhibit 4. I'll try to show it on my screen.
This is the memo we saw before. If Ms. Clint, if you could have that published, that would be very helpful.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Go right ahead, Mr. Nauman.
This is an email.
It is, yes.
Written by Gary Langley.
It is, yes. That's Gary Langley.
And Gary Langley is not here to testify about this email.
No, I did receive the email, so I believe I can testify.
Objection, lack of foundation.
Overruled. The Exhibit 4 is already in and he can testify to what's on its face. Let's move forward.
Let's go back 16 or 17 years. You worked for Lush Fertilizer.
I did.
While you were there, you went to see Blake Doncourt, the CEO, multiple times.
Yes.
At one of those meetings, you complained about Gary Langley, your direct superior.
Yes.
Claiming that they were being unfair to you.
They were, yes.
And Blake Mr. Nauman, do we still need Exhibit 4 up?
No, Your Honor. sorry.
Okay, let's drop Exhibit 4. Thank you.
And Blake Doncourt dismissed you,
Basically, yeah,
saying you needed to just do your job.
yes,
And after that, you decided to search for new jobs
correct,
and applied for the opening at Terrace Greenery,
correct.
one of Lush Fertilizer's biggest competitors.
It was fertilizer, so I decided to apply in the same field, but they are competitors, correct?
Because it would make Blake Doncourt angry.
Well, I left because of my ruined relationship with Blake Doncourt.
But part of your reasoning was because it would make Blake Doncourt angry.
Correct.
After you got the job, you were fired from Lush Fertilizer.
Correct.
Your Honor, I would direct the court's attention to Exhibit 5, or to what has been previously marked as Exhibit 5. Mr. Durst, may you also direct your attention to what has been previously marked as Exhibit 5.
And what is that exhibit?
This is a non-compete agreement between Lush Fertilizer and Carson Durst.
Non-compete. The non-compete. Go right ahead.
Yes. May you please turn to the second page?
And we need to get that into evidence first before we go to the second page.
Your Honor, the witness is not allowed to turn to the second page of the exhibit before it's entered into evidence.
Well, not unless you're impeaching him, and in which case none of us will see this if you're impeaching him. So,
Okay. All right, Mr. Durst.
Until he
Sorry.
testifies that this is his document, I'm not going to let it in. So let's get it in.
Okay. Mr. Durst, have you seen this document before?
I have.
This is the non-compete agreement between you and Lush Fertilizer?
It is.
Your Honor, I move the court to enter what has previously been marked as Exhibit 5 into evidence.
Ms. Clint, any objection to Exhibit 5?
No objection, Your Honor.
Exhibit 5's in. Mr. Nauman, go right ahead.
Could you please turn to the second page? That is your signature?
It is.
And this is a non-compete agreement?
Correct.
This forced you not to work at any competing company.
To be clear, it was so that I wouldn't exchange trade secrets. I mean, the stipulation was I would not work at another company for a period of time.
This left you without an income at an early stage in your career?
This agreement?
Yeah, the fact that you were unable to work at any competing company
for
6 months.
Yes, that's why.
Objection relevance, Your Honor.
Your Honor, oh, sorry.
Go right
Your
ahead.
Your Honor, this goes to prove bias against Lush Fertilizer that is very relevant to this case.
Ms. Clint?
He is talking about him not being able to be paid for a matter of time, and I do not see how that is relevant to this case today.
I'm going to overrule the objection. This can be relevant according if the jury decides it is important, but it could be relevant as to his state of mind in being forced not to work or prevented from working because of a NDA. So overruled, Mr. Nauman, you may continue. And if we could see the first page, if we could page down, there we go. Thank you very much. Go right ahead.
And you were hired by Terrace Greenery
I was, yes.
before you had even been fired by Lush.
Correct.
And you don't remember signing this document?
I signed it.
But you don't remember signing it?
I do not.
I would like to close by asking a few questions about Lush Fertilizer.
And
Lush Fertilizer.
Let's drop Exhibit 5.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Go right ahead.
Lush Fertilizer has the best-selling fertilizer on the market.
Correct.
And you work at Terrace Greenery, one of Lush Fertilizer's biggest competitors.
Mm-hmm.
Developing a fertilizer.
Is that a yes, Mr. Durst?
Oh, I'm sorry, Your Honor. It is yes.
Thank you.
Developing a fertilizer.
I do develop a fertilizer at Terrace. Yes,
A fertilizer that you hope will surpass Lush Fertilizer's best-selling product.
I hope, yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Ms. Clint, redirect.
Briefly, Your Honor. Mr. Durst, why did you leave Lush Fertilizer?
Well, it just seemed I had no future there. I mean, there's the writing on the wall, if you know what I mean.
And why did you develop this new product at Terrace?
Well, I mean, it's my job. I'm literally the product developer, so I don't see why I wouldn't. And it's not a grudge. I mean, I'm being paid to do it. There's no other motivation, really.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Mr. Nauman, any recross on those issues?
None, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Mr. Durst, your testimony is complete. You are excused, and we will have the third witness for the plaintiff. And is it pronounced, I'm sorry, I didn't ask for this pronunciation and I should have. Is it Dudzik or Dudchik?
The first one, Your Honor, Dudzik.
Dudzik. Mr. Dudzik is going to be doing direct. We have Mr. Steed doing cross, and Mr. Dudzik, looks like we have everybody on the screen. You may call your next witness.
Thank you so much. Your Honor, the plaintiff calls Dr. Casey Rogers to the stand.
And Dr. Rogers, you have been sworn, and Mr. Dudzik, you may proceed.
Thank you. Doctor, could you please state and spell your last name for the court?
My name is Dr. Casey Rogers, Rogers.
And Dr. Rogers, what do you do for a living?
Currently, I am a professor in the Horticulture and Entomology Department at the University of California, Berkeley.
And doctor, what education have you received?
I received my Bachelor of Science degree in Agriculture and Chemistry from Colorado State University. I then went on to get my PhD in Agriculture and Entomology from the University of California, Berkeley.
And do you have any prior work experience in this field?
I do. Prior to earning my PhD, I worked as a research analyst for a large multinational chemical company.
And what does a research analyst's job entail?
I worked with clients in the chemical industry as a consultant working to solve their specific business problems. That involved collecting, summarizing, and analyzing the information I received.
And have you researched or written any articles of your own in these areas?
Sorry, could you restate that? You cut out a little bit.
You're good. Have you researched or written any of these articles of your own in these areas?
Yes, I've been researching the effects of chemicals on the body for years.
Thank you. And have you published any scholarly articles?
Yes, I have published numerous scholarly articles. My research on this topic has also been used in litigation before.
And are you familiar with Exhibit 7?
Yes, I am.
And is this a fair and accurate representation of your publications?
Could I get it pulled up?
Your Honor, permission to screen share?
Yes, you may.
Thank you.
Yes, this is fair and accurate.
And what experience do you have regarding the field of toxicology?
Well,
now, before we proceed, do you want to do anything with this document, or should we drop it?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Edit.
I'm currently building foundation. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fine, as long as he doesn't testify to what's on the document. If he just wants to do it from memory, we'll drop the document. But
okay, I'm sorry.
Otherwise, let's get it admitted.
Okay, let me rephrase. What is this?
This is a list of my research publications.
And is this a fair and accurate representation of that list?
It is.
And is there anything missing from this list?
No.
Thank you. Your Honor, the plaintiff moves to enter Exhibit 7 into evidence.
And Mr. Steed, any objection to Exhibit 7?
No objection, Your Honor.
Exhibit 7 is admitted. You may continue, Mr. Dudzik.
Thank you. So what experience do you have regarding the field of toxicology?
Well, in 2017, I wrote a report of drufotoxicity and carcinogenicity, a review of the scientific basis of the European Union assessment. This, along with many other of my research publications here, have much to do with toxicology.
Thank you. Your plaintiff offers Dr. Casey Rogers as an expert witness in the fields of agriculture, horticulture, toxicology, and the chemical effects on the human body pursuant to Rule 702.
Give me just a moment.
And I can restate those expert fields if you need me to.
No, I just had to write them down. I've got agriculture, entomology, horticulture, and the chemical effect of, or the effect of chemicals on the human body. Mr. Steed, any objection to any of those areas of qualification?
Your Honor, I would object to lax foundation, as Exhibit 6 has not been entered into evidence yet.
Well, Exhibit 6 is, I believe, his curriculum vitae. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. He has testified to to his education and other things on that. That is evidence. The CV is often objected to, as are lists of references objected to often, because they are hearsay if the witness can testify to them. Now, he has testified to things on the CV. The articles have been admitted, the list of articles has been admitted in addition to his testimony. So I got a lot of evidence here. So I will not accept that objection. Is there any other objection to his qualifications?
No, Your Honor.
All right, I will qualify then Dr. Rogers in the areas of agriculture, entomology, horticulture, and the effect of chemicals on the human body. You may proceed.
Thank you. Doctor, are you well versed with Lush products?
Yes, I am. I have analyzed the complete chemical makeup of each and every Lush product.
And how would you do such a thing?
I used a mass spectrometer. I measured the mass to charge ratio of ions, and these were presented as a mass spectrum, a sort of plot of intensity of the function of the mass to charge ratio.
And Dr. Rogers, have you heard of Drufo before?
Yes, I have. I heard about Drufo right when it was introduced to the market.
And could you please explain exactly what Drufo is?
Drufo is a patented product that Lush uses in their fertilizers as a bonding agent. They use this in their fertilizers to keep the fertilizer preserved and intact.
And what were your first thoughts about this chemical when you heard about it?
Well, I heard about this chemical right when it was introduced to the market. And I always had my suspicions right when I learned what it really was. And just to prove my suspicions, I began reading reports from my colleagues regarding the many negative effects associated with Drufo.
And how did you react to these findings?
I decided it was best to conduct my own study on the chemical. I wanted to find if there were any adverse health effects in persons who used Drufo.
And how did you conduct this study?
Well, my main focus was on those who use fertilizer as a part of their job. So of course, I studied farmers. Next, I included a control group, like any good study should. These were groups of people that had never been exposed to Drufo before. The final category entailed individuals who were exposed to Drufo occasionally, as I wanted to see if the amount of exposure was in direct correlation to adverse health effects. These groups were monitored over a period of years, and the data we collected from the exposed people were then compared to those of the control group.
And what were the results of this study?
We found that those who were exposed to Drufo were 10 times more likely to be diagnosed than with no exposure, and 5 times more likely than occasional exposure. There is a strong correlation we see here with Drufo exposure and endocrine and exocrine-based cancers like non-Hodgkin lymphoma.
And have you studied non-Hodgkin lymphoma before?
Yes, I have.
And could you please explain what it is for the jury in your knowledge?
Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma is a specific type of cancer which affects the white blood cells or lymphocytes, which are a major part of the body's immune system.
And how does one develop such a disease?
Well, this disease affects the lymphocytes, like I said, which attack the immune system. And after this attack, lymphoma is then, the person with this attack is then going to contract any sort of lymphoma.
And is this environmental or genetic?
Yes, this isn't unlike many other cancers, which are genetic. This is an environmental induced cancer.
And how does this disease affect a person's life?
Like many cancers, this unfortunately will never go away. It can be controlled, however, Miss Weirs will live with this disease forever. It also greatly damages the immune system, so Miss Weirs will face many other health problems because of the initial attack from the non-Hodgkin lymphoma.
And are you familiar with Miss Dakota Weir's experience with non-Hodgkin lymphoma?
Yes, I am. I have personally analyzed her medical and employment records in preparation for this case.
And how would exposure to Drufo have led to the non-Hodgkin lymphoma?
Miss Weirs was exposed to Drufo over a period of years without the use of protective covering. Over her 4 years in these conditions, the foreign particles entered her body through the space between her skin and lung tissues. These foreign particles then began to damage the lymphocytes, a major part of the body's immune system. These damaged lymphocytes accumulated in the lymph nodes, and these lymph nodes greatly damaged the immune system. The result of all of this is metastasizing cancerous masses in the body's immune system. And after such a hard attack like this on the body, lymphoma of any form is nearly inevitable.
And doctor, finally, what conclusions did you take from this study?
We know that there is a high degree of medical probability that Miss Weir's non-Hodgkin lymphoma was caused by prolonged exposure to Drufo.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Steed, cross-exam.
Thank you, Your Honor. Dr. Rogers, when dealing with fertilizer of any kind, proper protection should be used?
Yes, fertilizers include a lot of harsh chemicals.
This proper protection would include a face mask?
Yes.
Long sleeves?
Yes.
Long pants?
Yes.
And gloves?
Yes.
When dealing with specifically lush fertilizer, this same protection is recommended?
I would recommend it, yes.
And the protection is clearly stated on the package for lush fertilizer in Exhibit 1?
I have seen Exhibit 1, yes, and I would say so.
All right, now let's talk about your personal experiment. There were 3 testing groups?
Yes, there were.
The first was a control group?
I did include a control group, yes.
Which was never exposed to Drufo?
The control group were people who had never been exposed to Drufo before.
The second that was occasionally exposed to Drufo?
Yes, like I said, I wanted to see if the amount of exposure was in direct correlation to adverse health effects.
Yes, and the third group was mostly made up, and the third was frequently exposed to Drufo?
Yes, that is correct.
And it was mostly made up of farmers?
Yes.
Or of gardeners?
Yes, they are the ones that are exposed to fertilizer.
All right. And these people may have been exposed to other pesticides?
It is possible, yes.
Or to other fertilizers other than lush fertilizer?
Oh, sure. However, we had them working with lush fertilizer during the study.
Okay, so they were not purely exposed to Drufo because they were working with other fertilizers?
They were working with the lush fertilizer. However, they were probably exposed to other conditions, yes.
And the overwhelming outcome of the study was that the third group had an increase in serious health conditions?
The 2 groups that were exposed to Drufo both had increases in non-Hodgkin lymphoma.
Okay, and the main outcome was namely cancer?
Yes, that is
and
what
specifically, and specifically non-Hodgkin's lymphoma?
Yes.
The same condition the plaintiff in this case suffers from?
Correct.
All right, and then finally, the results of your experiment, are the results of the study published?
They are not as of right now, no.
And is the experiment provided for this case in an exhibit?
No, it is not.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Mr. Dudzik, I'm sorry, redirect?
Yes, Your Honor, briefly. Doctor, do you in any way control how other scientists replicate studies?
I do not, no.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Steed, any recross on that issue?
None, Your Honor.
Thank you. Dr. Rogers, that concludes your testimony and you are excused. Since you're on screen, Mr. Dudzik, any additional, any additional witnesses for the plaintiff?
No, Your Honor, the plaintiff rests.
Thank you very much. We'll now proceed with, in just a moment while I reorganize my paperwork, with the first witness for the defendant, and which attorney is going to present that first witness.
That will be me, Your Honor. Gavin
And
Steed.
okay, you're in proper order here then on my sheet. Give me just a moment.
Awesome.
Oh, no, I guess you're not. Let's see. Yes, you are. Sorry, I'm just making notes here. And it appears that, let's see, Blake, it appears as though Ms. Clint will be doing cross-examination. Is that correct? Yes. Okay, good. And Mr. Steed, when you're ready, you may call your first witness for the defense.
Thank you, Your Honor. The defense would like to call Blake Doncourt to the stand.
And Ms. Doncourt, you are already sworn. Mr. Steed, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Please state your name and spell your last for the record.
Blake Doncourt, Doncourt.
Why are you here today, Ms. Doncourt?
I'm here to defend my company, Lush Fertilizer, from the false claim that we ignored a carcinogen in our fertilizer.
And how successful is your company, Lush Fertilizer?
We are very successful. In fact, so successful that we can divert 10% of our profits to charities, and we have started our own charity to clean the ocean. In 2019, we were awarded the SEAL Sustainability Award, and I was nominated for the United Nations Champions of the Earth Award, which I had hoped to win before all of this had happened.
Congratulations. Has Lush always been this successful?
Oh, no, certainly not. When we were still a small company, we were so small that when the EU decided to ban our main product, Drufo, from coming out into market in their countries, we did not have enough money to fight it because we were paying venture capitalists and we needed to make sure we had money to give them a good return on their investment.
Was there anything else that made it hard for the company to get off the ground?
Other than the EU choosing not to use our product Drufo, we had many venture or vulture capitalists trying very hard to get their money back very quickly, and so we were not able to fight the decision that the EU made about our product because we had to save money to pay them back.
Did this cause for a bias in the reasoning for why the fertilizer was not baked in the beginning?
No, it certainly did not. We had found in our extensive testing of Drufo that there was no definable risk that Drufo was carcinogenic. And so, although baking would certainly remove any risk that it was carcinogenic, since there was no definable risk in the first place, we had no reason to.
And does Lush Fertilizer bake their products now?
No, there is still no need.
Is it for the same reason you previously said?
Yes, it is for the reason that our product is already safe, and so there is no reason to take a safety measure that is completely unnecessary and unneeded.
Is there a warning on your fertilizer bags specifically for non-Hodgkin's lymphoma?
No, because our product does not cause non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And not only did our researchers find this, but the EPA agrees as well. There was no reason to put a warning about a risk that our fertilizer would not present to any of our customers.
Is there a warning label on the bag for general risks that may be presented by the fertilizer?
Certainly. We most certainly want to keep our customers safe. And Lush Fertilizer is a chemical fertilizer, and when using chemicals, customers should protect their skin and face and take the safety measures you would with any chemical so as to stay safe.
And shifting to a new topic, who is Carson Durst in relation to you?
Carson Durst was a family friend and is a former employee of mine.
Why is he a former employee?
Oh, well, after he began work for my company, after multiple abysmal performance reviews, I had to fire him.
What did Mr. Durst do for the company?
He was one of our research and development engineers. It was his job, along with the other research and development engineers, to warn the company and me of any dangers that our product might pose to our customers.
Did he ever notify you of any of these risks?
No.
And do you know if he's been employed since being fired?
Yes, he works at Terrace Green right now.
And Ms. Doncourt, do you have the exhibit booklet in front of you?
I do.
Your Honor, I asked that the opposing counsel bring up Exhibit 4 and screen share that.
If we could screen share Exhibit 4, Ms. Clint, thank you very much.
Ms. Doncourt, before your preparation for this case, have you ever seen this document?
No, before my preparation for this case, we had never seen it. We gave the lawyers access to our email history and the files that our company has, and this email did not turn up anywhere in our search of our database.
So where would Mr. Durst have found this email?
I honestly have no idea.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
And if we could drop Exhibit 4, thank you very much, Ms. Clint. Cross-exam.
Thank you, Your Honor. Luscious fertilizer contains DRUFO, correct?
Yes.
And you had the choice to either bake your fertilizer or not bake your fertilizer.
Yes.
And baking your fertilizer would have removed any risk of the fertilizer being carcinogenic, correct?
Yes.
But Lush decided not to bake their fertilizer, correct?
Yes, there was no reason to bake the fertilizer.
And by not baking the fertilizer, you found that Lush would increase its profits by 6% in the first year.
Yes.
And by not baking your fertilizer, Lush would also increase its profits by 2% every additional year after that initial year, correct?
It would.
And you did not bake your products because you needed the money to pay back your investors, correct?
When we were beginning, yes, but that was not the sole reason. We mostly didn't bake it because there was no reason to spend money to protect our customers from a risk that was non-existent.
And moving on, your fertilizer is sold in bags, and those bags of fertilizer display a safety recommendation, correct?
Yes.
Your Honor, permission to screen share Exhibit 1, as it has already been admitted into evidence.
Yes, you may.
Ms. Doncourt, do you recognize this exhibit?
Yes, I do.
What is this?
It is the label of Lush fertilizer.
And did you or your team make this label?
Yes, my company did.
Does the label recommend protective coverings?
It does.
And it says to wear protective clothing because this fertilizer is not safe, correct?
It says to wear protective covering because this fertilizer is a chemical fertilizer, and chemicals, when used incorrectly, are dangerous.
So the chemicals in the fertilizer are not safe.
The chemicals are safe when used properly, just as with any other chemicals.
And most people use fertilizer in the summer, correct?
I would assume.
It gets pretty hot in the summer.
It does.
And
Objection relevance.
I'm going to give a little latitude until we get a little further with the questions. If I'll jump in if I think it's not and allow you to expand on your objection, but let's get a little bit more here.
And most people don't wear long clothing in the summer, correct?
Yes.
And I want you to now talk about what Lush knew about Drufo. Carson Durst worked at Lush as a product development engineer, correct?
Yes, he did.
And let's drop Exhibit 1 then, please. Thank you.
You claim that the existence of Jerry Langley's email warning about the dangers of Drufo is fabricated, correct?
Yes, I never received this email and it is not in any of our company's database.
However, if you had received this email, you would have been put on notice for dangers associated with Drufo, correct?
Yes, most certainly. If I had received this email, I would.
But you cannot guarantee that this email has been deleted from Lush records, correct?
I can. I would know if we had deleted it.
And you stated that the environment is one of Lush's #1 priorities.
It is.
So should your product cause cancer, that would ruin the reputation of your company, correct?
Certainly it would.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Mr. Steed, redirect.
Yes, Your Honor, briefly. Ms. Doncourt, what are the safety precautions that are listed on the package of Lush fertilizer?
We warn our customers to cover their skin and protect their face because although our fertilizer does not cause cancer, it is a chemical fertilizer, and chemicals can be dangerous if you do not follow the proper safety precautions when using them.
Do these safety precautions change depending on the season of the year?
No, they do not. At any season of year, precautions should be taken properly.
And would you say that it was a business decision to not bake the fertilizer?
I would say that certainly part of it was. I am running a business and all of our decisions, I need to be thinking about our company, but our main concern is the safety of our customers. If there had been any danger that our product caused cancer, we would have baked the fertilizer. Since there was not, I did make a business decision not to waste money on alleviating a risk that didn't exist.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Ms. Clint, recross on those issues.
Briefly, Your Honor. You say that your main concern is for the safety of your consumers, yet you chose to not bake the fertilizer that would have removed any risk of carcinogenic properties, correct?
Yes, we did choose that because our product was already safe.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Doncourt. Your testimony is concluded. You are excused. We'll now have the next witness for the defendant, Ms. Cheney. I believe you are on direct. Is that correct?
Yes, it is, Your Honor.
And that would mean that Ms. Entner is doing cross. And Ms. Cheney, you may call your witness when you are ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. The defense would like to call Skylar Weirs to the stand.
And Ms. Weirs, you've already been sworn. Ms. Cheney, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Please state your name and spell your last for the record.
My name is Skylar Weirs, W-E-I-R-S.
What do you do for a living, Ms. Weirs?
I'm an investigative journalist for The Rationalist.
And what is The Rationalist?
The Rationalist is a magazine devoted to promoting scientific skepticism and advocating for the stop of pseudoscience and irrationality.
Thank you. And what kind of things do you write about, Ms. Weirs?
I myself have written a number of articles on the conflict between individual health and corporate policy.
What are some specific topics you've written on?
I was recently asked to write a series of articles on modern agritech, specifically an article on the causal link between Drufo and cancer and questioning that.
And how long did you spend researching your article on Drufo?
I spent a year reading and researching for that article.
And can you explain to the jury what your methodology was?
Of course. So I myself am not a scientist. I'm an investigative journalist. So in researching for this article, I tried to look at as many different sources as possible from the experts in the field. I looked at information put out by corporations that were in modern agritech, as well as any research mentioned in those publications. I looked at information put out by the United States Department of Agriculture, as well as the National Association of State Departments of Agriculture. I looked at historical information, general knowledge, statistical information to try and get the best overall view of DRUFO and modern agritech that I possibly could.
Thank you. Your Honor, I move for the recognition of this witness as an expert in the field of fertilizers and pesticides, specifically DRUFO.
Give me just a moment. And Ms. Entner, any objection to this witness being qualified in that area of expert on fertilizer and pesticides?
Yes, Your Honor. Permission to conduct a brief voir dire.
Yes, you may.
Ms. Weirs, you do not have a degree from an accredited university, correct?
I do not. I wanted to focus on my writing instead.
Nor have you taken any classes on modern agritech or anything that you have studied, correct?
I have not, just through my research.
And all of your writing and experience in agritech has come from other people's studies, correct?
Of course, I'm not an expert, so I refer to the experts in this kind of situation.
And you are not a doctor, correct?
I'm not a doctor, no.
And you are not a scientist?
Not a scientist, just listening to the scientists.
Your Honor, at this time, the plaintiff objects to Ms. Weirs testifying about the causes and effects on DRUFO and cancer as a whole, since she has not proven that she has sufficient knowledge on science behind DRUFO and has no degree in any science or medical field. And she has just stated herself that she is not an expert in these areas. But the plaintiff is okay with her talking about modern agritech.
Ms. Cheney, any response to that as far as not being qualified as an expert in fertilizer and pesticides?
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, this witness has just testified that she spent an entire year reading and researching DRUFO. Within that year, she looked at work done by actual scientists. And an expert is someone due to Rule 702 that they have at least one of the following, which are knowledge, skill, experience, training, or education. Ms. Weirs has proven that she has done that. May I ask the court that this witness's opinion goes to the weight of her opinion and not the admissibility?
That the objection goes to the weight?
Yes.
Okay. And Ms. Entner, and I'll give you the last word on this.
Thank you, Your Honor. As I have stated before, Ms. Weirs is not qualified. She has stated that she is qualified to talk about modern agritech, but not the causes and effects of DRUFO or cancer as a whole. That was not addressed before. And also she stated herself that she was not an expert in those fields. And she has said that she has spent 1 year studying DRUFO, whereas with Dr. Casey Rogers, it takes up to 8 years to complete a PhD. So she is not qualified to talk about these topics.
Well, the actual education piece of this is only one aspect of possibly being an expert. The fact that she does not have a postgraduate degree, much less a college degree, is certainly something the jury may consider in their weight, but that alone won't prohibit her from testifying. As to what she has done, in saying that she has said she's not an expert in those areas, that's not what she testified. She says she wasn't a scientist. What she has done is to accumulate the opinions of experts and then combine those to reach her own conclusion. Now, her conclusion may or may not impress the jury based on the weight of her testimony, but that's up to the jury. Otherwise, I believe she has her own opinion, having accumulated these separate opinions and giving her opinion based on that accumulation. So I'll let her testify to that. As far as it being in a particular area, whether it is agricultural technology, fertilizer and pesticides are part of agricultural technology. So I will simply qualify her in ag tech or agricultural technology with a focus on fertilizer and pesticides. Ms. Cheney, you may proceed with your witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now moving on, who produces Drufo?
Lush Fertilizer produces Drufo.
Does anyone else produce Drufo?
No, it is unique to Lush Fertilizer.
And what is unique about Drufo compared to other fertilizers?
Drufo has to be applied less often than other fertilizers, which is a lot safer.
And how does it do that?
Drufo is a super strong bonding agent. So rather than having to be applied multiple times a year, it only has to be applied 1 to 2 times a year because it stays in the soil longer and is therefore effective for longer, which means that consumers are exposed to any chemicals in the products for
Ms. Weirs, we lost your connection. Let's stop time while we correct it. We made it a long way without a technical problem. But no one's at fault here. It just happened about the same time the last trial too. Defense case, second or third witness. Made it almost to the end.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good.
Okay, we're back on. We'll start time again and you may continue your answer.
Thank you. It's a lot safer for consumers because all agricultural products, specifically chemical ones, have some element of danger if not used properly or if exposed too often. Through having to apply it less often, that reduces that risk.
Thank you. Is there anything else unique about Drufo?
Yes, Drufo is also a very effective pesticide, meaning that other pesticides do not have to be applied on top of the fertilizer, which is once again safer as pesticides are by definition poison.
Are there any benefits to using Drufo instead of those other pesticides?
Yes, so other common pesticides like arsenic or glyphosate have been shown to be carcinogenic.
And do you know of any link between Drufo and cancer like those other pesticides have?
But we've lost you again, Ms. Weirs. And time will stop until we get this fixed. It sounds as though it's an electrical connection problem.
Yeah, this keeps happening. Can you hear me?
Yes,
okay.
we can.
Thank you so much, Your Honor.
Okay, time will begin again. Go right ahead.
Would you like me to repeat the question, Ms. Weirs?
Yes, please.
Do you know of any link between Drufo and cancer like those other pesticides have?
No, in the extensive research I've done, I have not found any credible studies that link Drufo to cancer like arsenic and glyphosate have been.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Entner, cross-exam.
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Weirs, I want to start by talking about your articles. First off, you supported Monsanto. You didn't necessarily write an article supporting Monsanto, but you support the Monsanto. You supported Monsanto, correct?
Yes.
And you supported Monsanto, a product that was proven to cause cancer, correct?
Yes, I mean, other pesticides like arsenic and glyphosate, as shown earlier, are dangerous. And I do believe that I would still support use of those pesticides, so in like kind.
I'm sorry, let me rephrase. So you supported Monsanto, a company.
Objection relevance.
What is the relevance of what was done with the Monsanto product as opposed to the Lush product, Ms. Entner?
Your Honor, I am trying to show how Ms. Weirs had previously supported Monsanto, a company who produced a fertilizer that was proven to cause cancer. And I'm trying to show how that links to the case that we are discussing today and how Ms. Weirs is supporting Drufo, which we are trying to prove caused cancer.
Ms. Cheney.
Your Honor, we are here to talk about Lush Fertilizer and Dakota Weirs, not Monsanto.
Ms. Entner, unless you can show some connection between the chemicals that are in Monsanto as opposed to the chemicals that are in Lush, I don't see the relevance here. They may be two entirely separate things as far as we're aware right now, two different companies and apples and oranges. So unless you can connect them up, let's move to another topic.
Okay, I will move on, Your Honor. Ms. Weirs, you have also written an article on Drufo, correct?
Yes, I have.
And in this article, you claimed that Drufo was safe?
Yes, not carcinogenic.
You say that Drufo is a pesticide, correct?
On top of being a bonding agent in the fertilizer, yes.
You also claim that pesticides are by definition poison, correct?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Okay, moving on. You have never conducted any studies on Drufo yourself, correct?
Not myself. I'm a journalist, not a scientist.
So all of your knowledge on the safety of Drufo has been from interpreting other people's studies, correct?
Yes, the wide array of studies I could find from scientists in the field.
And sorry. So all of your knowledge, not just on Drufo, but on agritech as a whole, has come from interpreting other people's research and not from a university or class, correct?
Yes, it was from reading articles and compiling those.
And your father was not pleased with your decision to go to college, correct?
My decision not to go to college, yes, he was not pleased with that.
And your father also helped you with your gambling debt until you decided not to go to college, correct?
Objection, lack foundation.
Ms. Entner, where are you going with this?
I am trying to prove that Ms. Weirs has bias against her sister.
And Ms. Cheney, why is that not relevant?
Your Honor, just for clarification, my objection was lack of foundation, not relevance.
And does there need to be more foundation between twins to testify to this?
Your Honor, opposing counsel has not established the fact that my witness had financial issues and did not have gambling problems.
Fair enough. Let's have a little foundation on that specific issue, Ms. Entner.
Okay, I'll rephrase my question. Your father became upset with you when you decided not to go to college, correct?
And is that a yes? You are muted. There we go. Whoops, we've got the same problem. Let's stop our time.
Keeps happening. I don't even get it.
There it goes.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's just an electrical connection apparently. So no harm, no foul. Let's start our time. Ms. Entner, let's have the same question again.
Okay, your father was not happy with your decision not to go to college, correct?
Yes, he was unhappy about that.
And you were not happy with your family after this, correct?
I was not happy that my father did not support me, of course.
No further questions at this time, Your Honor.
And Ms. Cheney, any additional questions on redirect?
No further questions, Your Honor.
Without redirect, there is no recross, of course. Ms. Weirs, your testimony is concluded. You are excused. We'll now have the third witness for the defendant, and Mr. Nauman, you are on direct, and I believe that, let's see, where are we here? Mr. Dudzik, you are on cross, and Mr. Nauman, when you are prepared, you may call your witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The defense calls Dr. Devin Williams to the stand. Dr. Williams, please state your name and spell your last for the record.
And Dr. Williams, you are sworn, and you have a question pending.
Thank you, Your Honor. Dr. Devin Williams, Williams.
Dr. Devin Williams, what is your job?
Well, I lead the toxicology research and development team at Lush Fertilizer, and I am the outgoing chair of the company's ethics committee.
How long have you worked for Lush Fertilizer?
Well, I've worked there roughly a decade, and I've led the toxicology lab for 7 years.
Could you explain what this job entails?
Absolutely. It means I work to understand how the outdoor world will respond to outside influences, such as the fertilizer that we develop.
What training led you to this job at Lush Fertilizer?
My undergraduate at Colorado State University, my PhD, and my postdoctorate, which are detailed in my CV.
Dr. Williams, could you give a list of the highlights of your education?
Absolutely. I have a specialized postdoctorate in pharmacotoxicology, or the pharmaceutical effects of drugs on the human body. I also have various accreditations and certifications in Colorado, New Mexico, Wyoming, and Utah.
And do you have any publications?
I do, such as the forensic aspects of poison.
What other professional experiences do you have?
Well, I have my experience in researching and evaluating test results to determine the effects of toxins.
What has this training allowed you to do at Lush?
This training has allowed me to postulate as to the broader effects that our fertilizer will have on the outside world.
Could you explain what that means to the jury?
Certainly. It means that I can determine whether or not something will be harmful to the average human and how to neutralize that harm if it were to happen.
Your Honor, I move the court to recognize Dr. Devin Williams as an expert in chemical toxicology, pharmacology, and research and development processes at Lush Fertilizer.
And what's the third area?
Research and development processes at Lush Fertilizer.
Give me a moment. I'm just trying to think of what to call a research protocol. How about that? Sorry, talking to myself. I'm calling it research protocol at Lush. So we have Mr. Dudzik, 3 areas that he would be qualified in: chemical toxicity, pharmacology, and the research protocol at Lush. Any objection to any of those 3 areas?
Yes, Your Honor, permission to perform a brief voir dire.
Of course.
So, doctor, you perform tests on some people sometimes, right?
Excuse me, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that. Could you repeat that?
That's all right. So you perform tests on people and you analyze the studies, right?
We don't perform tests on people, but yes, we test and analyze our studies.
But you have analyzed some studies of people.
Certainly.
And so some of these effects are your main focus, right?
Yes, we want to keep all of our customers safe.
And these effects are very broad, correct? Many illnesses and some have no illness effects, right?
Yes.
So you're not too versed in each individual specific effect, correct?
Well, as I determine the effects and know how to neutralize them, I would say I am.
But you can't testify to the medical aspect of these effects.
Well, I am a scientist.
But are you a doctor?
No.
No. Your Honor, although the plaintiff has no specific objection to any of the entered areas for the expert to be admitted, we do object to any sort of specific testimony and any sort of specific or broad types of cancer or medical effects of these fertilizers.
Mr. Nauman, I'm going to let you weigh on this before I make a ruling, if you wish.
Thank you, Your Honor. I definitely think that Dr. Williams has laid sufficient foundation for her education in the fields of chemical toxicology, which would lead to the medical effects of those chemicals on humans and any other test subjects.
Are you satisfied with that, Mr. Dudzik?
I am, although I just want to make sure that no medical opinion or science behind any sort of medical diagnoses is shared due to only being toxicologist and not an actual medical doctor.
All right, this is a fine line I'm going to draw on this rule. Excuse me, a fine line I will draw on this ruling, but I think it's an important one. The expertise of Dr. Williams, as far as being a chemical or pharmacological toxicologist and testifying to the effects of toxins on the human body, or the effect of poisons on the human body, is a causal opinion where certain toxins may cause a problem. And she may testify as to the problem it causes, like this, according, I know that this causes problems, and according to the literature, it causes cancer. The people that are exposed to these drugs, I expect opinion to be, it causes cancer. Now, that is an opinion of a scientific opinion of a toxicologist, as opposed to a medical opinion. Now, if beyond that, there were testimony about other than just what is that cause? What is that cancer? What is, the cancer? That is something that a toxicologist could testify to, because that is an effect of the toxin. In this case, lymphoma. And she may testify to that if she has that knowledge. However, beyond that, as to any signs, symptoms, things like that, that a medical doctor would testify, she's not diagnosing the cancer. She is merely saying that it is caused, an existing cancer is caused by a toxin. So she can't testify to the diagnosis of the cancer itself, other than it exists. She can't testify to prognosis. She can't testify to how that particular patient would react in the future to that cancer, other than the fact that the toxin caused the cancer. So with that said, it is not a medical opinion. It is a scientific opinion of a toxicologist. So with that said, Mr. Who have I got? Sorry, with all that, Mr. Nauman, you may proceed with this expert. She is qualified.
Thank you, Your Honor. How were you introduced to DRUFO?
Well, I was introduced when about half of the R&D team had moved on outside of the company.
Could you explain why DRUFO is used in fertilizer?
I would love to. DRUFO is used in our fertilizer because it specially binds to the fertilizer and to the grass or whatever else it's sprayed on to prevent a dangerous process known as eutrophication.
What problem did DRUFO solve from prior fertilizers?
It is helping to solve excess nitrate runoff, or as I just mentioned, what is called eutrophication.
What did that process, or why did that process lead to the development of DRUFO?
Well, because most fertilizers use nitrogen, nitrogen and excess nitrates would build up and run off into bodies of water and around the rest of the earth, and it kills fish and allows harmful algae to humans to bloom. Because of the way DRUFO binds to the grass, it means that it has to be sprayed less and stays on longer, meaning that there would be less nitrates overall.
Why is DRUFO so revolutionary?
So far, DRUFO is the only fertilizer that prevents this dangerous process.
And why is DRUFO banned in the EU?
DRUFO is banned in the EU because in tests it can be manipulated to show the same nitrate accumulation as other fertilizers. It had nothing to do with any risk of DRUFOs causing cancer.
And why is it banned in smaller countries such as Haiti or Liberia?
Unfortunately, because those countries don't have enough money to test for themselves, they go by whatever the EU decides.
Why didn't Lush fight the EU's decision if there was no concrete specific proof or scientific proof?
We were a very young company at the time, and it wasn't worth the fight. But we're planning to reappeal so more people can use our revolutionary product and be safer.
Is there any study that proves that Drufo causes lymphoma?
No, there are studies that show it could potentially cause cancer, but because of statistics, anything could be shown to have the same effects. One could not say with certainty that Drufo does cause cancer, and we know for a fact that it doesn't.
Is it important to compare those using fertilizers with Drufo to those using fertilizers without Drufo?
Of course it is. If you don't compare like things, you're going to get biased results.
And what could bad comparisons lead to in these statistics?
Well, they could lead to results that weren't quite accurate. If you don't account for every factor, you're not going to get results that are scientifically true.
And has Dr. Rogers' experiment, which you mentioned earlier, been replicated or peer reviewed?
No, it hasn't, which is also, well, all experiments need to be replicated or peer reviewed to show that it's not a fluke or a one-time thing. If you take a large group of random people, one group is more likely to develop non-Hodgkin's lymphoma more than the other. And that's just the random factor, which means that since the experiment hasn't been replicated, we don't know that it actually proves anything.
And in your expert opinion, did Drufo cause the defendant's lymphoma?
No. Well, it is terrible that Miss Weirs has to live with this disease. It certainly wasn't caused by Lush.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Mr. Dudzik, cross-exam.
Yes, Your Honor. Doctor, you work for the defendant, correct?
I do.
And you're chairman on the board of this company?
Yes.
So your company and therefore you, however small, do have a financial stake in this case, correct?
Of course I do.
And Lush performs in-house studies for their new products, right?
Yes, to ensure the safety of our users.
And an in-house study at Lush, although you deny it, has a potential of bias in the results, right?
Well, no. If we look at the science, then it won't be biased.
So you believe that an in-house study of a company has absolutely no area for bias?
Well, perhaps it has area, but it's not biased if we look at the facts.
So it has area though?
I suppose.
And when did you begin working at Lush?
About halfway through the development and process of making Drufo.
And at that point, most of the Drufo development team had left the company though?
They had.
And you were not involved in any way in the actual development of Drufo, correct?
Well, I was. Just halfway through.
But you did not actually develop Drufo. You were just there while it was happening.
Well, that's what I was working on, developing it. So yes, I did work on the development of Drufo.
Okay, and you're familiar with Dr. Casey's research, correct?
I am.
And you find it to be improper, correct?
Yes.
In fact, you even feel like it is improper because it has not been replicated, correct?
Yes.
Or peer reviewed.
Correct.
And just improper in the groups that were used, correct?
Well, yes, I think the comparisons were inaccurate.
And you knowing this, but you made no attempt to peer review it or replicate it, or you asked no one that you knew in the scientific field to peer review or replicate it, correct?
No, we already know Drufo is safe, so there was no reason to.
So you have no problem with this study going unpeer reviewed when you yourself could do it, correct?
No, because Drufo is safe, so we don't need to do more studies.
Unless fertilizer is banned in the EU, right?
Yes, it is.
And that's not because of Drufo, though?
No.
But the company chose not to fight that decision then.
No, but we're planning to reconsider so more people can have this product and be safer as a result.
And winning this lawsuit would help, right?
Well, perhaps.
And the loss of this lawsuit could create many new roadblocks in getting this approval from the EU, right?
It could.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Nauman, redirect.
Briefly, Your Honor. Dr. Williams, would you ever let a financial bias outweigh your wish to protect the earth and your customers?
Of course not. I'm a scientist and we're always looking for the truth. If we had found any risk in Drufo, we would have addressed it and made sure our customers were safe.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Mr. Dudzik, recross on that issue.
No, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Dr. Williams, your testimony is completed. You are excused. And I have Mr. Nauman, I have you on the screen. Any further witnesses for the defense?
No, Your Honor. The defense rests.
Thank you very much. We'll now move to closing arguments, and I'll ask our scoring panelists to come back on video for closing. And let me get organized here. For closing, we have again, Mr. Dudzik. And as soon as we have our scoring panelists back on, we can begin. Give us just a moment. And we've got Mr. Prey that we're waiting for.
Back.
There we go.
What the heck?
Whoop.
There it is.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, I'm back.
Must have been the cat.
I don't have a cat.
I
have a dog.
Mr. Dudzik, you may begin your close when you're ready. But you'll need to, there we go. Yep.
Your Honor, members of the jury and opposing counsel, may it please the court, my name is Christopher Dudzik, and I represent Dakota Weirs in this case. We appreciate your attention throughout this matter, and we thank you for listening to both sides equally, as you promised you would do in jury selection. This case comes down to one thing: corporate greed. This case is about a company valuing its image and money more than the safety of mankind. The defense has put a blame on a 14-year-old girl in a small company. You have seen and will see how Lush Fertilizer will do anything to defer any blame and take matters to avoid any responsibility. Today, you've been shown beyond a preponderance of evidence that Lush Fertilizer was negligent in their inclusion of Drufo in their products. First, you heard from Ms. Dakota Weirs about how she was robbed of her livelihood because of Lush Fertilizer's product. She was on her way to becoming a musical genius. Then, playing piano, her one true love and sole remaining connection with her grandfather was stolen from her because of a fully preventable illness. Her main interest in this prosecution of Lush Fertilizer, in this case, is preventing any other people from this terrible, terrible fate. Lush cared more about their profit than the value of human life, causing Miss Weirs to lose her passion and her joy. Then you heard from Carson Durst, a chemical engineer that studied the effects of Drufo, about how Lush knew the dangers of Drufo. Lush knew the harm their product would cause, and yet they released it to the masses anyway. They knowingly and negligently sold poison for profit. Lush put the public in danger because of their greed and need for more. And Carson Durst told you how Lush had the power to protect its consumers, and yet they ignored this responsibility in favor of money. Then they marketed their products as being good for the environment in order to save their reputation. So instead, they harmed the public and caused Dakota Weirs' illness. Skylar Weirs, an expert, even said that fertilizers are, by definition, are poison and not 100% safe. And lastly, Casey Rogers, an expert in the fields of agriculture, horticulture, toxicology, which is the effects of chemical on the body, explained Drufo's dangers. He explained what Drufo is, why it's so dangerous, and the danger it causes. Dr. Rogers conducted a controlled scientific study that clearly showed how Drufo causes non-Hodgkin lymphoma. Non-Hodgkin lymphoma is caused by environmental factors. Drufo is one such factor. And Dakota Weirs was in an environment with Drufo for an extended period of time. Dr. Rogers clearly demonstrated that Lush Fertilizer causes Miss Weirs' illness. Skylar Weirs was admitted as an expert witness, but during her voir dire, she even stated she was not qualified as an expert. The average time to receive a PhD is 8 years, and 1 year of research does not equate to such studies. Dr. Williams, another expert, stated that she was present for and a key figure in the development of Drufo. She wasn't. She testified on the science of cancers, and by no means was she qualified to. Lush knowingly made fertilizer with poison that caused cancer and chose not to warn its customers. If what Mr. Doncourt said was true and consumer safety is Lush's #1 concern, then a more in-depth warning label would have been apparent. Blake and Lush wouldn't have thought twice about baking Drufo, but they did. They chose profit over people. We ask you to remember that there's a difference between helping the environment and protecting humanity. Life is precious, but in Lush's opinion, not more precious than money and a good reputation. Drufo is a dangerous chemical that cost Dakota Weirs everything. Her life is ruined because of Lush's negligence. Members of the jury, today we ask you to rule in the plaintiff's favor because it is clear, beyond a preponderance of evidence, that Lush Fertilizer neglected the value of human life by including Drufo in their products. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we will have closing argument for the defense. Mr. Steed.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I proceed?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. Lush's warnings were thrown to the wind. You've heard about the plaintiff's blatant disregard of any safety precautions. The plaintiff, despite the explicit instruction of Haven Landscaping, the company she worked for, chose not to use any protective equipment. The plaintiff followed her coworkers who worked for Haven and never used protective equipment. This activity was blatantly ignoring the warnings on the back of the fertilizer bag. The plaintiff places the blame on Lush Fertilizer for the reason she avoided wearing protection. And because of this, she suffered the consequences. These consequences being the horrible condition of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Despite this horrible outcome, however, it was Dakota Weirs' decision to not cover up her skin and instead let her hair flow in the wind. Lush's warnings were thrown in the wind. Today, you heard from Blake Doncourt, whose hard work, dedication, and willingness to invest her life in her company, Lush Fertilizer, made it clear that she had pure intentions and would never put a product on the market without thorough investigation done beforehand. She hired a team specifically to do research on the product. She thoroughly investigated all the possible risks, and from these results, developed a clear and accurate warning for the product. This warning, or Exhibit 1 in this case, states to, quote, utilize protective clothing that covers exposed skin. It also reads, quote, use of a respirator or N95 face mask is recommended. There was no reason to put a warning for cancer on the package, so just because the warning does not include for cancer does not mean it should be taken any less serious. Next, you heard from Skylar Weirs, Dakota's own sister, who has done exhaustive research on Drufo. As an expert, she knows more than enough information on how Drufo affects different people in different situations. And in this specific situation, her expert opinion is that there's no danger in using Lush Fertilizer. Lastly, you heard from Dr. Devin Williams, an accomplished toxicologist who has studied Drufo and the effects of it. She told you how it is good for the environment and shows us Ms. Doncourt's pure intentions and environmental concerns were the reason for the creation of Drufo in the first place. Most importantly, she stated how Drufo did not cause the cancer in her expert opinion. First, in our cross-examination, you heard from Dr. Casey Rogers, who supposedly conducted an experiment to test how harmful Drufo can be, but none of it was recorded or entered into evidence. It connected the idea of a higher risk of cancer with farmers who worked with other fertilizers more than it did with actual Drufo or even Lush Fertilizer. This means it is inconclusive that it is purely Lush's fertilizer that can be harmful and fails to rule out other fertilizers. Expert or not, he identified the easiest way to contract non-Hodgkin's lymphoma is to breathe in harmful chemicals or to absorb them through one's skin. Both activities done by the plaintiff in this case very often, specifically 10 hours a day, every day for 4 summers. Despite all this work with a plethora of different fertilizers and pesticides, Dakota Weirs made the decision to not follow any of the safety precautions specifically and clearly listed on the back of the fertilizer packaging. Next, you heard from Durst. Carson Durst repaid Ms. Doncourt's generosity with betrayal. Carson Durst was given a job at Lush Fertilizer straight out of college because of his connection with the Doncourt family. In return, however, he performed poorly and was eventually fired. Then he went to work for the company's biggest rival. This is not all, though. Mr. Durst produced an email supposedly sent to Ms. Doncourt about Drufo being harmful and argued that she did nothing about it. Blake Doncourt herself, however, testified that she had never seen the email before the trial, and not only did she not recall it, but some lawyers searched Lush Fertilizer's email database before this trial and found no evidence of it ever having been sent or received by the company. Dakota Weirs pleaded her case of Lush lacking accountability and neglecting a warning on the back of its fertilizer. The real truth behind this is that Lush has a warning, but not for cancer. There's no substantial proof of the risk of cancer deriving from the fertilizer. She used multiple chemical fertilizers every day for years of her teenage life and never used a mask, never covered her skin, and never followed the safety precautions set for her. Then blamed it on anyone around her, including the landscaping company she worked for at the time, Haven Landscaping, which, although unjustified, poses an incredibly important question, one that is not addressed much in this case, $1 million question. Where is the landscaping company through all of this? I urge you all in the jury to recall how Dakota Weirs, our plaintiff, was given the job of spreading fertilizer in the first place because she was too young to manage heavy equipment. This issue seems irrelevant now that we see the harm done to the plaintiff. Haven Landscaping did not enforce wearing protection to any of their employees, much less the ones like our plaintiff who were teenagers at the time. Once again, and for the last time, Lush's warnings were thrown to the wind. Thank you.
Thank you. And what can we have a time check on rebuttal for the plaintiff?
They have 50 seconds left.
50 seconds, Mr. Dudzik, if you wish.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, as you just heard, again, Lush is putting the blame on a 14-year-old girl in a small landscaping company. Warnings were thrown to the wind. Recommendations were slightly overlooked. They hired a specific team to make sure Drufo was safe, and yet they still decided not to bake Drufo. The mere fact that Lush feels that people should be just safer in general, but Lush doesn't even decide to make their product safer is awful. The defense case is full of unqualified witnesses, greed, and blame. They're refusing to take an ounce of responsibility for what they know they did. We have proved beyond a preponderance of evidence that Drufo has caused Miss Dakota Weirs cancer. Thank you.
Thank you. Case stands submitted. I'll ask the scoring panelists to please drop their video. When they have submitted their ballots, checked and submitted their ballots, they may come back on. That way we'll know that the ballots have been submitted. In the meantime, I'd ask everybody else, all the other participants, please do activate your video. And Mr. Prey, you're all finished?
I'm done.
Okay, so I'll wait until I get the other two scoring panelists back up on the screen. And I will tell you, in all the, I've been scoring these for 16 years. This is, I don't know, I think I figured this would be my 142nd mock trial competition that I've judged, in addition to being a district court judge. But I will tell you that this presentation was probably as close to a real trial as I have seen in my recent memory of these competitions. It was crisp, it was efficient. You did not, you weren't simply burning time to make a performance. That's what I would say, is you tried this case, and this is how a trial normally goes. About 95% of the trials that I tried, you get a pretrial statement from the attorneys saying, you know, here are all my witnesses, here is what I anticipate their examination will take, the amount of time. And the opposing counsel submits the same thing for their witnesses, including direct and cross of the other party's witnesses. So you put together, how much time is this going to take? 95% of the trials take less time, because as you get rolling in a trial, things just go faster. You think, I don't need to ask that question. I can eliminate that witness. Now, we had no witness elimination, but we had very efficient, crisp questioning and cross, direct and cross. So congratulations. I was very, very impressed with that. I think, Mr. Prey, I think you said you had already submitted your ballot. If you have, why don't you start out on comments for our participants?
Well, like I said yesterday, this was my first state competition scoring. I've scored regionals for 6 or 7 years, I think it is, and I'm very impressed. The reason you're here at state is because of how good you are. I mean, it's very difficult to select out any particular competitors here who stood out. I did have a lot of fun though I thought it was a lot of fun when Mr. Dudzik and Danielle Jensen went back and forth on her testimony. That was very good. It was I love the back and forth. That's one of the fun things I like to see. Mr. Nauman, you have an unusual delivery, but it's extremely effective. The more I listened to you, the better I thought you were. And Miss Entner, you had a wonderful opening. I thought it was great. So thank you very much. This was very enjoyable, and I'll probably be back next year.
Ms. Schlinsog, if you would have any comments.
I pretty much just will echo Mr. Prey. I thought you guys all did a great job. One thing I did notice that I have to say I'm not a fan of was I could tell some of you were reading for some of it, and that's not really what I would have expected from the two teams of this caliber. I know it's easy to do that with the Zoom video pulled up, but we were specifically noted in our judging orientation to watch where your eyes are going, because a lot of teams are trying to do that. And so I was paying a lot of attention to that, and I did notice. So if you guys, make it to the championship round, I would recommend, you don't need to do this. Like, you guys have it. You don't need that crutch, and it's just going to mark you down when you use it. So, but other than that, good job.
Ms. Little.
Yes, I'll echo the comments of both of the other scoring panelists. I think overall a really great job from everyone. It was clear at times that some folks were reading, and that was a sad distraction, because I echo the comment too that it is very clear that you all know this. And I think especially whoever advances to the next round, being really intentional about making this flow, like if you are in a real trial, and it did feel like that, but continuing to do that by being ready to respond in the moment instead of having to kind of always stop and prepare really, really clearly. So otherwise, y'all did a really great job. And I echo what our judge said about how realistic this feels. Great job, everyone.
Yeah, it was very, very good. And it's been a long 2 days, and you're to be congratulated, and also the support of all the folks that are listening on our streaming service, family, coaches, friends. And I'd like to give everybody congratulations. So you'll all be waiting to see what happens next, I know, and we'll let you go to do that. So thank you again very much. And Amber, if you could hang on for just a second.
You got it.